Tonight on Nightline, the family business. He was born into the mafia. She married into the mob. But when he wanted out, one imposing man stood in his way, his father.
Oh no, he's gonna kill me.
A family torn apart.
He could not stand up for me.
And a son's decision to sell out his dad and give the feds the most mob convictions in American history. And for the people, they were indie rock pioneers with the One I Love. Now they are rock and roll icons. So what's on REM frontman Michael Stipe's playlist tonight?
From the global resources of ABC News with Terry Moran, Cynthia McFadden, and Bill Weir in New York City. This is Nightline, March 4th, 2011.
Good evening, I'm Bill Weir. Well, despite what The Godfather taught us, most self-respecting mobsters hope all their sons find a legitimate line of work. But one notorious Chicago hitman had no such parental instinct. He pulled his son into the mob, and it cost him his family and his freedom. For the first time ever, you're about to hear from the most important mafia turncoat in recent history, the man at the center of what the FBI called Operation Family Secrets. A few nights a month, patrons pile into this trendy Phoenix restaurant with no idea that the man making their pizza is a member of one of the most notorious crime families in America.
There's our stone oven, a little over 500 degrees.
His name is Frank Calabrese Jr., and his father, Frank Sr., is serving multiple life sentences for killing 13 people while stealing, extorting, and loan sharking millions as a made man in the outfit. The Chicago mob, notorious since the days of Al Capone. Did he have a signature?
Yeah. When he was killing, he wanted to make sure you were dead. So he loved to strangle you and then cut your throat from ear to ear.
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure.
Seeing this family in this setting, you'd never know that she was once an unwitting mob wife. If somebody asked, what does your husband do for a living, what would you say?
He worked for the city, which he did. Ignorance was bliss for me.
And if you met him on the street, you'd never imagine that within the outfit, he went from respected enforcer to reviled rat by helping the FBI put his own father away for life.
I call myself a lot of things, but I don't call myself a rat. And I'll tell you why. Rats run and hide. I don't run and hide. And that's why I'm not in witness protection. I can't run and hide. I'm a cooperating witness. I'm a turncoat. I'm a bad son, whatever you want to call me. But I don't feel that I'm a rat.
But before the turn, he was his father's favorite son in almost every way. You say you were ready to, but never killed.
Correct. I fought a lot, roughed people up, I broke bones.
I can't help but notice that you're sitting with your back to the door.
I need to live my life, and I can't live it every day wondering if one day somebody's going to come in and get me. I'm getting more comfortable with sitting with my back to the door, but I still do like to sit.
Where you can see what's what.
Yeah, but you got that seat first.
To give us a sense of his old life in the mob, Frank Jr. agreed to come back to Chicago, back to the Chinatown area where his father's crew worked.
On the left is Ronnie Jarrett's house. He got gunned down right up here on the right side of the street.
And Elmwood Park, where they lived.
I haven't been back here in a long time, and this is, it's weird. It's weird right now.
Joe, how are you? Yeah, good. How are you?
Cool,
I just got you on Facebook, right? That's great. That's great. You're still over here, huh?
You're like the mayor.
If I go into Chinatown, I might not get a reception like that. In this neighborhood, I will, okay?
They called this the compound. A three-flat with aunts, uncles, cousins packed onto different floors, and on occasion, undercover FBI agents watching out front.
One time as a kid, we were playing out here, and I seen them sitting in the car, and we went over to the car, and they laid down in the car and pretended like they were sleeping.
As a child, Frank Jr. says he only had a vague sense of what his father did for a living. But when The Godfather hit theaters in '72,
Accept this justice as a gift on my daughter's wedding day.
his friends started to make the connection.
And there was a talk in the neighborhood, so it was a lot of talk.
It glamorized your dad's work a little.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And you know, that whole thing, you see how my dad was treated from people.
At the height of your dad's earning power, how much money did he have?
I would say around 10 million plus.
In cash?
Yeah.
Just stashed in...
In walls, in car panels, anywhere he could stash cash.
While Frank says he had no interest in joining the outfit, he worshipped his dad. And as he got older, his grooming intensified.
It wasn't a choice. It was like, you need to do this. You're my son. I need you there. My father was a master manipulator.
As a teen, he was sent to collect payoffs from X-rated bookstores. And over time, his father hinted that murder would eventually be part of the game.
He says, if you want to see a friend's a good friend, he says, throw some sheets in the trunk, throw something under it, put some sheets over and pull up and say, hey, do me a favor. I need your help. What? I got some shovels in the trunk. I accidentally ran over somebody. I got to bury him. Will you help me? He says, and tell me how many people go with you. So then you got a good friend.
With both beatings and hugs, Frank Sr. also manipulated his brother Nick into joining the crew. In fact, Uncle Nick was also part of the hit team that killed the Spalatro brothers in a way that inspired this scene from the movie Goodfellas.
My uncle never killed for money. He never killed because he got mad at anybody. He only killed when ordered to.
He admitted on the stand that he wet himself in fear.
Yeah.
After his first hit.
My uncle was a tough guy, but he's a nice guy. He has a heart.
But Frank's father wasn't quite so sensitive. On a tour of their old mob territory, he took us to one of the many so-called work garages, where his dad and uncle would stash cars, weapons, and torture the occasional enemy.
For some reason, a lot of Chicago guys tortured their victims before they killed them.
But it was a moment in another garage that stands as the most chilling symbol of Calabrese's dysfunction. After years of faithful service, a frustrated Frank Jr. had stolen from his father, was trying to pay him back, but it wasn't fast enough for the old man.
And when I walked in and he closed the door, all of a sudden it hit me. He made me park my car somewhere else. He was real nice to me, and he turned around and I seen that 1,000-yard bloodshot stare, glassy-eyed stare in his eyes. And that's when he pulled around, grabbed me, and stuck the gun in my face, and he said, if you're going to disobey me and I can't control you, I'd rather have you dead.
And when he met the woman he'd marry, his father forced her to sign a blank prenup. Just one indication of his iron fist.
I was intimidated, you know, but after I met him, I'm like, he seems nice, you know, and that's the sociopath part of it, you know. He seems real nice, and then once you're in the family and, you know, you see what he does to the family and that umbrella effect, how he, you know, what he does affects everybody.
The more Frank Jr. learned about the outfit and his father's controlling ways, the less he liked both. And after starting a family, Frank Jr. began looking for a legitimate way to pay back his dad and break away for good. So he started a small car detailing business.
And we had the detail shop.
But it wasn't long before Frank Sr. tried to muscle his own son for a piece of the action. But the feds were watching, and with a witness from the auto shop, had enough to swoop in with indictments.
This is the house I got arrested in right here. And it was ironic because I lived right across the street from an immigration judge.
When the Calabrese crew was finally arrested, his father's hypocrisy was truly revealed. After years of preaching family loyalty, he was purely out for himself.
He tells me, all right, I'll tell you what, you know the money you owe me? I says, yeah. He says, I'll call it even. You plead guilty for me, too. Here's my father that's supposed to be a man's man, and I'm thinking, I got a son at the time. I would never do that to my son.
So Frank Jr. decided that prison would be his way out of the outfit and away from his father. He pled guilty to racketeering, agreed to serve 5 years, but in a twist of fate, his father was transferred to his same prison and began the same old manipulation. But for the first time in his life, Frank Jr. decided to take control.
I think about when he was in the cafeteria with Rocky, talking about killing guys and how Rocky used to kill guys.
You'll see how Operation Family Secrets unfolded.
I just wanted it to be over.
And how it tore the Calabreses apart.
Very tough.
When Nightline continues.
Nightline continues from New York City with Bill Weir.
We return now to the story of a family torn apart by the mob. Even in prison, Frank Calabrese Jr. could not escape his hitman father's devious reach, so he devised a plan to set himself free for good, though it meant crossing the man he feared more than any other. Frank Calabrese Sr. taught his son everything he knew about the mob, how to brutalize, intimidate, and manipulate for profit. He had no idea his son would eventually use that latter skill against him. Fed up with the mob life and his father's ways, Frank couldn't wait to plead guilty just to get away from the man. But when they ended up in the same Michigan prison on a minor racketeering conviction, he made the gut-wrenching decision to sit down and write a letter to the FBI, offering to help put his father away for life.
What are my options? Is there any good options? No. I'm either going to testify against my father and put him away for life, or I'm going to wait till we get on the street and something's going to happen with one of us. One of us is going to wind up dead, one of us is going to wind up in jail.
Afraid that his testimony wouldn't be enough, he agreed to wear a wire and dupe his dad into thinking he wanted back into the outfit.
Poor guy was at the wrong place at the wrong time. We were hoping that he was going to be alone.
But if his father or any of the other prisoners discovered what he was up to, he could pay with his life.
It was tense, very, very tense during the times when he was out making the recordings.
Either he came back or you heard the alarm go off in the yard, huh?
Yes, that's exactly correct.
Over the course of several months, over hours of recordings, Frank Sr. described many murders.
Big Barry. So them will tear half of your body apart. Them must have tore them up pretty good. Oh, yeah. Them will tear your body apart. They're called double X.
Years later, at the biggest mob trial in Chicago history, Frank Sr. listened to his own words and then watched his own brother and son, now hobbled by MS, testify against him.
He's sitting there, he's aged, and it was just that look like, you know, you wanted to run over there and hug him. Man, oh my God, it's my father. And I was so overwhelmed with emotion.
Operation Family Secrets brought some of the most sweeping convictions in American mob history. And though he admitted to 14 murders, Uncle Nick is up for parole in 2013 due to his cooperation. Having done his time, Frank now lives in Phoenix, doing odd jobs and making pizza. Prison cost him his marriage, but his ex-wife and grown kids live nearby, all still working on their still raw wounds.
You know, even though we're no longer together, you know, I love him. He's like my best friend. It's the history I can't move past, and I've tried.
I still haven't gotten through Goodfellas either, any of those. Can't watch any mafia movies.
Really?
They get to me really bad.
Movies portray organized crime as this luxurious, beautiful thing that everybody's taken care of and there's all these loyalties. And in reality, there's not. You're only good for what they'll use you for. And your life is not worth nothing. And when you bring it into your family, it's going to rip your family apart. And my family and myself is a prime example of that.
Frank Jr.'s book, Operation Family Secrets, How a Mobster's Son and the FBI Brought Down Chicago's Murderous Crime Family, is in stores next week.